Hello and welcome to our part of the project where we work with Linux. What I want to do in this video is I just want to overview Linux with you from a systems administration point of view. One of the things that I want to be a takeaway for you when we're done with this video is that I want you to understand or have the vision that Linux is huge. It's so big that there's so many different ways to approach it. So our approach is from a systems administration point of view, meaning that when you go out into work in industry, what are you going to see for Linux? What are you likely to see? And kind of the big picture. I wanted to start with here on my drawing tablet to give you a list of the different Linux installs that we have here within site. You look down the list and you've been working with pfSense. This manages our Wi-Fi. All of us have been working with ESXi, and then these three are network attached storage. Now, these are what I would call vendor-specific Linux distributions. What that is then is that a company, they take a Linux distribution and they customize it for their product. And like when you look at pfSense, it's got its own interface, and yes, we can add and remove packages from it. Ubiquity, no, it's there and we can work with it, but we can't add ESXi and so on. So I'm calling those vendor-based. But the thing that they all have in common is that they all have a command line. And being able to think Linux and to be able to go to a command line and interact with these different Linux vendor distributions is an advantage to us. There are things that we can do from the command line that are part of systems administration. If you look at all of our deployments here in site, and you just count operating systems, if you say I'm going to put Linux on one side and Windows on the other, we have more Linux by far than we do Windows. But they're different. They're different. It's like Linux distributions are, I'm almost going to say that every one of them is unique. Where a Windows installation, they all start out pretty much the same. That's kind of a dividing line there. Let me say that again. Key point. Linux distributions, I could venture to say that every single one of them is unique. Where when you install Windows operating systems or Mac OS, all of those installations start out at a base platform and then you go from there. So that's a huge difference. And to illustrate that point, I want to take you to this right here, and this is bookmarked in Canvas. This is a website that has been around for a very long time, and it shows for us what's up with Linux. It's cataloged in different ways, and this website is just all about Linux. It's not looking at Linux from a systems administration standpoint. It's not looking at it from a business standpoint or a home user standpoint or a developer standpoint. It's just the world of Linux. And so when you look at this here, take a look. Over here we've got a listing of latest distributions, who's come out with the new version, latest packages. Over here, top downloads or top hits from this website. The list goes on. They only catalog the top 100. There are multiple hundreds of distributions of Linux, multiple hundreds. There are so many. That is both a blessing and a curse. Let's go back to our drawing here for a minute. The fact that there are so many, it has it has the smiley face, so many distributions of Linux, and it also has the sad face. And that's because the development effort that goes into Linux is very diversified. And so you've got thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of people that are investing time in developing Linux, but their efforts are spread out across thousands of distributions. So what you get is you get this playing field that's going to have Linux all across the board, every flavor, every variety, everything you might want to do with it. You could even start your own distribution. You could take an existing distribution of Linux and customize it, and you could build a company around it. You could do like TrueNAS or pfSense, where they've built products around it. So the fact that there are so many distributions and that the development effort for Linux is so broad means that there's no like one Linux place you go to get everything. It's you pick and choose. It's like a flea market or a swap meet, or I don't know what the terminology we would use here, but it's where you've just got all this stuff available to you. On the strength side of it, Linux is open source, it's freely available, and there's so much you can do with it, and your hands are not tied. You can take it apart, you can customize it, you can do anything that you want to with it. I want to talk just for a moment about coming back to the systems administrator's perspective on Linux, and that's down here where we talk about paid Linux distributions. From a systems administrator point, okay, again, that's us. When we go out into our customers, into companies, we are likely only to find a handful of Linux distributions, and those are the ones where you can get paid technical support. The top three I've listed here: Ubuntu, Red Hat, and SUSE. You take companies like a credit union or a college or a hospital. You take these organizations and you're very likely to find Linux in them. But if the Linux is in anything mission critical, it's going to be tied to a Linux distribution that offers paid support. It is. You have to feel the weight of this sometime on your shoulders to kind of understand where companies are coming from, why they do this. You're thinking, well, Linux is free, Randy, so why would somebody then choose to pay for support for it? It's because when it becomes an integral business tool, you have to have, or not, you don't honestly don't have to, but the business models today say that you need a big brother that when you've done all you can, you need someone to call, that the buck stops with them, that they will get whatever the problem is fixed 24/7, whatever, 365, whatever your contract is with them. You tend to only see Linux distributions from a systems administrator point of view that offer paid support. And that's because of what I'm saying here. Well, you say, well, I've got this really sharp Linux guy on our team. Yes, but what about when he's on vacation? Or what if he retires? Or what if he takes another job? And so when a company invests in Linux, they do so with plan B being we have a support contract with our vendor that they will help us. Let's take a quick overview of these different distributions and take a look at them. So over here, this is SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, or SLES, and this is their paid product. The operating system itself is free and open source, but what you pay for from them is you pay for support. You pay for patches and updates and someone that can provide technical support. Now, the companion product to it is over here, and this is OpenSUSE. OpenSUSE is not paid. OpenSUSE is open source community support, and it offers two different ways that you can go with it, or two distributions. And this is common. This has become kind of the common model among big Linux players today. Tumbleweed over here on the left, this is what they refer to as their rolling release. As software developers are investing new technology and doing new things with OpenSUSE, it is showing up in Tumbleweed. And this is an ongoing, like every couple of weeks, you're going to see a new build. Where Leap is their long-term distribution, or LTS, long-term support. The changes in Leap are like biannual or annual, and we're going to work with Leap in our project. So Leap is more stable. When you install, we're going to install the latest version, and it's going to hold for for months. We won't see any change to the core operating system itself. Yes, we'll see patches. Yes, we'll see updates, but the basic build is going to hold steady with minor changes over the course of months and even up to like a year. Okay, so you get that. So when you talk about SUSE Linux, there is SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, and this is what companies invest in. This is where you buy your support contract and you buy a license to get updates. This is where you have a fee that you pay, and you can call someone or email someone and they'll help you fix your problem. Over here is the development side of it, And they're still very viable products. Tumbleweed is kind of what they, again, rolling, changing. Everything new is showing up in there first. Leap is less changing, less rolling, but you have to wait a few months before the things that are integrated here are kind of proven, tested, and vetted, and then they show up here. And as we go down the list with Red Hat, you're going to see the same platform. Red Hat itself is a subscription or purchased product. Fedora is the community open platform where you can freely install it and you can get updates, and they it's the what we call like perhaps the non-paid edition. With Ubuntu, they've got the same thing, but their website is broken out a little differently. Ubuntu is become one of the larger players in Linux, and they offer all kinds of different releases. So here we're just showing you their long-term support and their rolling release. So here's LTS over here, and then the interim releases would be their rolling support. If you want to look at their paid options, there's lots of choices there. So that's the deal. I want to quit the video. I don't want it to go too long, but I want you to get the gist of what's going in Linux community. And let me just take you back to this. It is such a big arena. There is so much going on that it's like how do you teach it, or how do you pick what you're going to teach? And I've chosen to partner with, or excuse me, Site has chosen to partner with, and I've chosen to teach under the SUSE umbrella. We've taught SUSE Linux Enterprise in the past, and I'm currently teaching OpenSUSE. And then there's also other Linux here among other instructors, but my focus is systems administration. And so we're using OpenSUSE Leap, and then everything you learn in OpenSUSE Leap can be applied to SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. All right, I'll wrap this video up, and the next thing we'll do is we'll do an install, a basic install of OpenSUSE Leap.